Hi everyone, and today I'm delighted to be talking to a dear friend and colleague of mine, Isabel Machado Williams of Balance Health Clinic in Peel. Hi Izzy.
Hi Steph.
So we have been talking about doing something like this for so long, but we thought, right, today it's International Women's Day. Isle of Man's in lockdown. We've got to get this launched. So here we are. It's wonderful that we can finally do this. So Isabel and I have both been practitioners for, how long have you been in practice, Izzy?
Probably nearly over 10 years now.
Right, so we've got about 25 years between us and treated, I'm sure, many thousands of people between us in that time. And you're absolutely my go-to woman when I need a pickup and I need a treatment and I want to put my body back in balance. So Izzy, you're a kinesiologist amongst some of your many talents. Would you just give us a little explanation about what you do, please?
Of course. So kinesiology in theory uses the system of muscle testing to ascertain what's going on in the body or what's going wrong with the body. And it was brought to the world in the 1960s by a very clever doctor and chiropractor. And it uses the premises that there are 42 muscles in the body that are connected via the nervous system to the organs and meridian channels. So when we kinesiologists do a muscle test, we're actually having a conversation with the muscles, the organs underneath and the meridian channels as well. And from that, we start to get a bigger picture of what's going on with a person. So I give you an example of if someone came in with a bad knee, I would probably look at the quads first, because the quads are connected to the knee, but they're also connected to the small intestine. So I often find that people with digestive issues or ulcerative colitis or things like that often have knee complaints as well. So they think they're separate, but they're not. It's part of the bigger picture of everything's going on. So when we do muscle test, we're searching across 4 realms. And the first realm is the biochemical. And with the biochemical realm, we're looking at what are we not putting into our body that our body needs now? So foods, supplements, there's food intolerance tests I can do to omit any foods that are causing issues to the body. There's the emotional realm. So every condition out there does have an emotional overlay to it. And how you feel about a condition can make it 10 times worse. So there's a lot of emotional coaching that goes on with kinesiology as well. We're looking at the electrical, so this is when we get into the acupuncture points or the acupuncture meridian points to balance the body, because they do affect the muscles as well and the organs. And then finally, we look at the structural. So the structural is very, very important. And today's topic, which is stress, if we were to take one of the muscles in the thigh, which connects to the pelvis, that muscle is connected to the adrenals. So when the adrenals get stressed, that muscle shortens and it tightens and it starts to twist the pelvis, and then you start to get lower back pain. So you often find stress and back pain are highly, highly linked through this connection through the nervous system to the adrenal system. And there's about 7 muscles, I believe, that are connected to the adrenals throughout the body, top and bottom.
Right. So first of all, that's amazing. And no wonder I love coming to see you. But first of all, we're going to be talking about stress today. And yes. Second of all, let's just cover what the adrenal glands are. So the adrenal glands are a tiny little gland, aren't they? And they sit on top of our kidneys here, and they produce stress hormones and lots of different function, but including our stress hormones, adrenaline, as in adrenaline, and cortisol. And we're going to be talking a lot about these 2 chemicals today, aren't we, Izzy? Because these are ones that
yes.
can be very beneficial when we're running away from danger or about to save a small child from running out in a road. But they can be not beneficial when we're overproducing them in lower levels over long periods of time. And that's what we both see in clinic all the time, isn't it, Izzy? Is these people.
All the time.
Well, when I say these people, I mean, I'm one of those people too. You know, I think humans living in 2021, we have a lot of stress. We're in lots of stressful situations, especially at the moment with all these lockdowns and news every day and everything that has been going on in the world. So yes, let's talk more about stress and how we can help support people's bodies through that, which is amazing. So yeah, you did some amazing slides that we're going to attach to this, which has been fantastic, where you talk about how stress can cause things in the body like anxiety, fear and vulnerability. But also, Izzy, those things can actually cause stress as well, can't they? So it's like a two-way thing.
Of course they can. Yeah, of course they can. And adrenaline and cortisol are the two biggest hormones that have this physical effect on our bodies. And usually, I mean, the first, you get stressed over something, you see that the figures are rising, or as you said, a child runs into the road or something, and it will cause that phase 1 alarm system. So your blood pressure starts to rise and your heart speeds up a little bit, and you start to sweat out the toxins, and your immune system decides to kind of get a little bit under pressure with all this, and your digestion starts to shut down because the energy has to go elsewhere to help you get out of this situation that's causing you to have all these stress hormones flooding your system. And your muscles tense, your blood kind of goes away from all the important organs and all the important tendons, your breathing becomes faster, and all these physical things, as well as the mind, the emotional things, go on simultaneously at the same time. And normally what should happen is that event should pass, and then we all calm down, and then it's great. But we do live in a society, especially what's going on at the moment, is chronic stress induced pattern that's going on. So then the stress becomes chronic, and from that we get into phase 2, where we get, because there's so much cortisol and adrenaline flooding the system, we start to get low grade inflammation, which, as you know very well, starts to weaken the immune system and cause all other problems too. Yeah. So there's a lot that stress does to us, not just mentally and emotionally, but physically too, and it all happens at the same time.
Absolutely. And I think I like to see it as a seesaw. So we've got like our autonomic nervous system, and this side, what we call, you might have heard of fight, flight or freeze. I don't mean Izzy, I know Izzy has, but other people, fight, flight or freeze. And then this side is our rest and digest, our parasympathetic nervous system. And I like to explain it that this system only has 100%. It's like a seesaw. When one side goes up, one side goes down. Now at this side, like Izzy was saying, this is the side of our immune system, our digestive system, our body's ability to make other hormones, like our sex hormones, like progesterone and estrogen and testosterone, and detoxifying on our liver function and our body's ability to be able to repair and fight infection. This all happens this side, doesn't it, Izzy? And yes. So when there's chronic stress, that side is suppressed, our body's ability to absorb nutrients and all the things that we've just talked about. And this guy's in charge, isn't it? This side is the one that's in charge, because this is the one that we need to, if we're running away from a tiger, this is what's needed. And I think a lot of people don't understand that stress is the same stress. It doesn't have a different stress for listening to the news about COVID, different stress with the kids being at home, different stress because we're fearful or we're worried about family, or stress because we're actually running away from danger. The body just sees it as stress, doesn't it, Izzy? It's like
it does. And I think you put it beautifully in when I think you were on Manx Radio's Women's Hour once, and you did put it beautifully. Like, the mind will see something like a pint of milk that's been left out, and the mind just goes, well, that's a bit annoying. And I'll grade that out of 10. That's 1. That's not really much. That's just the 1. But down the adrenals, there's no grading. It's just right. That's stress. So there you go. Boom. Have some stress hormones, and they start to flood your system. And I always remember when you said that little analogy. That was really, really good.
Thank you. But so everything comes at the other side of stress, doesn't it? All the good stuff comes at the other side of stress. And so if this becomes our norm, the other thing that happens is our adrenal glands wake up in the morning and says, how are we going to live through today? Your body doesn't wake up in the morning and go, hey Steffi, how are you going to have the best day ever? Our bodies wake up and go, what did I do yesterday to live? So we're not designed to thrive, are we? We're designed to survive.
Not at all, yeah.
And so the stress that we had yesterday and the day before, the body's already programmed for that, isn't it? So even if you aren't exposed to these, sudden stresses that we have been having, especially this week, your body wakes up in the morning and the adrenal glands are ready, aren't they? They're like, ready, steady, go, this is how much cortisol
Yeah.
and adrenaline I need to survive today. And what we're going to talk about now is how we sort of reprogram that system and say, whoa, hang on a minute. I don't need to be running away from a tiger all day long. You know, let's just calm things down a little bit. So
and there's loads that could be done to calm.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your top
Steph, go on.
No, what's your top tips, Izzy, for reprogramming our adrenal
So
glands?
for reprogramming, I would say that, you know, stress most of the time comes from a thought. And if you've ever gone onto a Mike Cooley mindfulness thing, you've heard him say that we have about 74,000 thoughts a day, I believe. But do you remember all 74,000 of them? I know I don't, and probably I'm going to guess that most of you guys don't either. And so that means that we actually have the choice to choose which thoughts we want to drag in and make our story. And then when you start to look at it that way, then you start to understand, well, you know, if I'm holding on to a thought, what would happen if I let it go? And then when you start to think of, well, if I understood how to let it go, then that means I'm only one thought away from being calm, and I'm only one thought away from being relaxed. And then that just means I'm just one thought away from being happy. And once you get to that point, that has profound change on your stress response, and that has a profound change on your life as a whole. And then you start to recognize that there's many practices or techniques you can do to get yourself to that point when you realize you're only just one thought away from being happy.
Yeah, I love that. One thought away. That's a blog, isn't it? That's a book written there, Izzy.
It could be.
One thought from happiness, absolutely. And I know you've done some breathing techniques with me in the past when I've visited you and I've been a bit stressed out. Do you want to talk to us about how the breath impacts your nervous system and stress levels?
Oh, right. So the breath is a big one. And not only does it control the mechanics of our body, so if I was looking at it from a structural point of view, if you don't have enough breath coming into the body, then the thoracic area of your spine is going to get tight, and the front area gets tight as well. And we have a lot of our central nervous system, which is accessible on that thoracic part of our spine. So if you can just visualize that, you know, you're not getting enough breath in, you're not breathing deep enough, you're very shallow breathing, which tends to happen when there's a lot of cortisol and adrenaline in the system. So you have to make that conscious effort to bring more breath in. And when you do start to breathe correctly, using the mechanics of your breathing starts to straighten that spine. And when you start to straighten that spine, then the central nervous system relaxes and it can calm the system down a little bit. So breathing on the mechanical and structural level, that's how it really does help calm the central nervous system, which of course is attached to the adrenals and many other things as well.
Oh, fantastic. So one we're going to be talking at the moment in all the ways that we can help get the balance from being more in fight and flight into rest and digest. And everything that we're going to be talking about is all aimed at suppressing this system. And by pushing that side down, we get a rise in this side, which helps us be calm and our immune system and all the good things that we talked about. But what's really interesting, Izzy, is that the breath that you talked about has such an impact in our central nervous system. It's actually the only thing that we can do to stimulate this side. And that's what the breathing does, doesn't it? So we're going to be recommending that people do practices or, you know, different herbs and natural medicines that we can take. But let's just make absolutely sure that everybody knows that number one, the first thing that we do when there's chronic stress is we stimulate this parasympathetic, the rest and digest nervous system, and that the breathing is the first thing that we do before we start putting anything else in our body. It's about really bringing it back to the breath.
So important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I believe that using the breath alkalizes the body quicker than anything else can as well. So again, that's going to be calming down the entire system. So yeah, breathe deep. Remember, all the advice of, you know, when you're angry, take a few deep breaths. I mean, there's a reason why that cliche is done, but cliches are cliches because they work. Yeah. So take the breath in and just relax the whole central nervous system. Use the mechanics of your body to relax the rest of your body.
Yeah, and it can be quite hard, can't it? Because we're talking about breathing quite deeply into our sort of abdomens, into here, and
Oh, to the belly, yeah.
that can be really difficult to do when we're stressed, because when we're stressed, this side of the nervous system tells our lungs, doesn't it, only breathe into the top bit, because you're only needing to breathe in the top bit when you're running away from a tiger, which is why sometimes I know when I'm really stressed, because I go and take in a deep breath and it's like it's stuck. You're like, hang on a minute, it's stuck. And that's, if you just all now, please take a deep breath together, let's do it. And feel where it gets stuck to. I know mine's about here, so I could do with doing a little bit of work, but really feeling like, where does that breath land? Is it here? That means you're probably really stressed. Is it a bit further down, or is it quite easy to fill the abdomen around the belly button, you know, filled? And if that's the case, then great, you know, you're in a sort of mostly parasympathetic state, or at least you're on the way to being in. Whereas if you're here, the breath can get really stuck here, can't it? It's like the nervous system won't even let the lungs expand down.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm just looking at your slides to remind us what else. So we also talked about, we've also talked, that cortisol, these stress hormones, can really weaken our immune system. And our immune system is so important at the moment. It seems like now more than ever, doesn't it? We have
it does,
the immune
yes.
system.
So, so it's the cortisol that creates what we call the insulin resistance, and the insulin resistance causes this low-grade inflammation throughout the body. So then that's your immune system then going to have to sort out this low-grade inflammation happening all over the body, and that's not really fair on the immune system in some ways. So it's super important to understand when you are stressed, understand the signs mentally, emotionally, and physically when you are stressed, to give your immune system this fighting chance to be able for it to be the best that it can be.
Absolutely, because as we said, you know, there's only so much energy in that nervous system, and your immune system's this side, isn't it? So if you're just chronically stressed,
it is, yeah.
you know, it doesn't matter how much vitamin D and how much vitamin C you take, you know, managing your stress is the first place that we start with immunity. That doesn't mean not to take vitamin D, everybody, by the way, with K2 apart, we'll come to that in a minute. But all I'm saying is that, you know, it's no good thinking I can just take my vitamin D3 and K2 and then be chronically stressed all the time. You know, we're sort of fighting against each other, aren't we?
Absolutely. And you know, as you said, it is important to eat right and take the right supplements, and you know, we'll come on to that in a moment, but you've got to come at anything, whether it be stress, whether it be discomforts in the body, whether it be illnesses, anything. You've got to come at it from many angles anyway, and just treat it with respect.
Absolutely. Now, some of the things that you've we sort of talked about this together, didn't we, on how we can support our nervous systems with chronic stress.
Yes.
And the first thing you've got here is my favorite, all-time favorite herb, ashwagandha, also known as withania. You love ashwagandha too, don't you?
Oh yes.
Yeah,
I love ashwagandha. really good for anxieties. You know, it helps just support that racing mind.
Absolutely.
One of the best things you can take. Yeah.
The number one prescribed herbal medicine, or the top prescribed herbal medicine in Australia, actually, ashwagandha. And as a medical herbalist, ashwagandha has a property which is my favorite action of herbal medicine, which is called an adaptogen. Now, adaptogens work amazingly well, because what they do is, under a microscope, you can take a cell and you can give it stress. Now, it doesn't matter what that stress is, whether it's emotional, whether it's environmental, whether it's because of an infection, whatever the stress or is to the system, it doesn't matter. These adaptogens, of which ashwagandha is one of our top adaptogens, it actually helps the cell cope with that stressor, whatever that stress is. And under a microscope, it's fascinating. Under a microscope, we just see the cells start to like relax and, you know, do a bit of a happy dance rather than being like, frantic. And that's what the ashwagandha does. It helps every cell in your body cope with whatever that stressor is, which is just amazing that we have this. It's my favorite action of natural medicine, adaptogens. I mean, it's wonderful.
Adaptogens are great. And, you know, as we're talking about the supplements now, the reason why they're important is, you can imagine if all these stress hormones are being injected and just flooding the system, that takes energy to be stressed. It takes a lot of energy, which is why you can end up in what we call stage 3 adrenal exhaustion, where you're floored, you've burnt the candle at both ends. And that can take many, many months to recover and unwind from. However, if you're eating clean and right, and if you're using all these supplements like ashwagandha, what you're doing is you're giving your body the underpinning support that it needs, so that when stress hits, it's more likely to hit this support rather than your whole being. And this is why supplementation becomes super, super important on top of eating right as well.
Absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up, because, we can't put a good diet or good sleep. I mean, we could talk about this subject forever, couldn't we, Isabel? There's so many different aspects of it, but, covering the basics like sleep, can't put sleep in a bottle, managing your stress levels, breathing right, eating abundant fruit and vegetables and lean proteins, and a clean whole food diet. These things are like your foundations, aren't they? But what we're looking to do at the moment is we're looking to biohack a little bit, aren't we, and help people get results as quickly as possible. And this is where and it is a supplementation. It's a supplementation to the foundations of everything being good, isn't it?
Yes.
It's not good to supplement without having the foundations right, as Izzy said. And the next thing on your list is passion flower, another one of my most prescribed herbal and most beautiful flower. The passion flower that it's made from is just, we used to grow
the name,
we used to grow passion flower vines in Australia, and it was, the flower themselves are so beautiful, they make you happy. But yeah, a nice little shot of passion flower. You can get passion flower tea, can't you? But I like it as a liquid herbal medicine. I think you do too, don't you? And you can take a little bit.
I do. And I had my very first onset of chicken pox about 4 years ago, and it was passion flower that really got me through it quite quickly. Really helped just calm how I was feeling about having adult chicken pox for the first time ever in my life. Passion flower was like my go-to. Absolutely wonderful stuff.
For just calming the system, not to treat a viral infection. Let's be clear about that.
No.
Very
much
do that. A calming herb for the nervous system. And they say even just a little shot of passion flower can really reduce cortisol levels quite quickly. I mean, I remember I took too much once in between a patient. I had to lie down for a minute. It's like, what? It's like stress levels went from there to there in about 5 minutes. It's incredible stuff.
Come back later while I go to bed.
And the next one you've got down here is Tulsi. I love a lovely cup of Tulsi tea.
Yes. Holy basil, as it's also known as well. Great, absolutely fantastic for lowering down cortisol levels. So yeah, have it in tea, have it in your food. It's good stuff. Really, really good stuff.
Pukka do a nice Tulsi tea, don't they? And Indian herbs do a nice Tulsi tea.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, Pukka Tulsi tea is my favourite. I love that one. I do have a cup or two every day, actually. And then we've got going on to our minerals, which is a big subject, isn't it? But magnesium, I mean, I don't think there's a natural medicine practitioner on the planet that doesn't just love magnesium and the effects that we can create quite quickly with it.
And it's another adaptogen as well, a very powerful one. And I would say take it as a supplement and bathe in it. If you've got the oil, put the oil on you. Just do what you can with magnesium. It's a great adrenal calmer. It's great to relax muscles and tendons. I quite often suggest it to clients who do have quite tight muscles. Go and take some, and quite quickly. Great for sleep, great for digestion. It's just endless. Magnesium is a really good adaptogen.
Absolutely. The only warning really is with magnesium is that I'm sure you've seen this as well, that people often self-prescribe a lot of magnesium, don't they? And sometimes, nutrients do have a ratio in the body. For example, it's 2 units of calcium to 1 unit of magnesium. So taking your own magnesium for short term, is okay. But it's not something that you'd want to do for long term, because minerals have a ratio in the body. So often, potassium and calcium and sodium deficiencies and zinc, these are all important for our nervous systems as well. But Magnesium, like the one that we burn through the most with stress, don't we? And that's one of the ones that we burn through the most, which is why everybody's like, oh, take magnesium for stress. But just important to say that in an acute situation like we're in at the moment, going through a bottle or two of magnesium would probably do you an awful lot of good. But what's not good is to stay on that, you know, for long term. It's good to do it under support. And if you're still having your symptoms when you stop taking the magnesium, then you might need to see a practitioner to give you some advice about
Absolutely.
that. Yeah,
because the whole thing we're trying to do is get a body back into balance, and when a body's in balance, all you need is small maintenance doses of a few things here and there. But when you're in crisis, when you're in stress, when you're in pain, and yes, you do need to kickstart the system a little bit, which is why it just seems to think that you're taking lots in the beginning. That's just a little kickstart approach, but once you're balanced, then it really does come down to minimum per day.
Yeah, don't be dependent on taking these buckets of stuff all the time, because that can throw it out of balance, can't it?
Yeah.
Now we've talked a little bit about vitamin D3 with K2, but this is on your list too as a really important immune support, and you've put here that it actually can elevate your mood as well.
Yes, so there's lots of really positive research around at the moment showing how vitamin D3, and K2, can really elevate the mood. So something to do with the melatonin, if I remember rightly, and that's quite important for right now.
It certainly is. And vitamin D3, K2, I mean, Scotland were posting it out, weren't they, last year to everybody? And many countries in the world have been using it, absolutely, you know, to really support immune system. Now, you'll hear that we're talking about D3 with K2. Now, the only contraindication for that is people on blood thinners, because the K2 is contraindicated. But for the majority of people, taking the D3 with the K2 is very important, because vitamin D has huge roles in our body to do with our calcium metabolism as well as our immune system. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the calcium metabolism is in the right place, and the K2 really helps that, make sure that that calcium metabolism happens optimally. We don't just want free calcium around the body. So next time you're replacing your D3, everyone, you know, please, you know, make sure it's got the K2 in it, unless you're on a blood thinner. You can also test your vitamin D levels quite easily, can't you, Izzy? There's NHS home test kits. I've actually got one here, which I'll show. So you can ask your GP. Some GPs will, some aren't as willing at the moment, because they've had a lot of restrictions put on them about what they're allowed to test. But you can actually get these NHS test kits, they're home test kits, for £29, and they will actually test your vitamin D. And as a public service, I offer this free of charge, that yes, you buy the kit at cost price, but I will evaluate the results and then prescribe an amount of vitamin D. And that is free of charge. Like, it's free service that I've always done and I'm maintaining to do. So, you know, please, everybody, if you're not sure what your vitamin D levels are, get in touch with Isabel or myself, and we can, you know, point you in the right direction to get these tests, because it's pretty important. And if I've tested so many people in the last years, and I can't tell you, especially here in the UK, more than Australia, but the vitamin D levels are absolutely dire. And whilst I'm not an expert in this subject, I'm just quite well read and practitioner. The people that I'm treating or have treated for the post-COVID or long COVID, and I've tested their vitamin D levels, have all had very low levels of vitamin D. Now, maybe that's just a coincidence, but I don't think so. You know, that's what a lot of my colleagues around the world are saying as well, that the research is coming out too. There's research on my website about that too, and we can put links as well on this. It's very important to have optimal levels of vitamin D3 at the moment. So thank you for adding that on as well. And our next is, one of my favorites, a B complex.
Central nervous system food.
Yeah.
So B complex, again, calms the system, or helps to calm the system. And I think you mentioned the other day, Steph, that was also a blood sugar regulator as well, or can balance out the blood sugars.
Absolutely. It's one of the main nutrients for carbohydrate metabolism, making sure that we're actually converting those carbohydrates healthily. Yeah. And
it's also great for the liver support as well. So, you know, in times of stress, that the liver does then pump glucose into the system too, which doesn't help much things. So giving all this support to not just the central nervous system, but to other areas of the body as well. And B, which is also an adaptogen, too.
Absolutely, great for the adrenal glands too. Adrenal glands love B vitamins in the nervous system. Yes, very much.
So it's a good little all-rounder.
I do include them in all of my 18-day cleanse products, you know, cleanses, because there's just so many benefits, aren't there, to a good B vitamin. And next, you know, I mean, how can we talk about anything to do with immunity or our adrenal glands without talking about vitamin C?
The biggest. So I've always, coming from structural health, I've always been taught that vitamin C is one of the most important, again, adaptogens and supplements you can take for adrenal health. It really is one of the quickest things that can really calm down those adrenals. It also provides the support for other supplements and nutrients to be able to do their job within the body as well, which is, as I understand it, how it supports the immune system and why it gets taken in times when you feel your immune system does need a little bit of a boost there too. And
it's so, I mean, you know, there's absolutely unquestionable evidence supporting well, everything we've talked about, there's unquestionable evidence, but I think there's just been such a vast amount of research into vitamin C and even COVID. I mean, even countries have been given it intravenously, haven't they, to patients?
Oh gosh, yes, yeah.
COVID and
I mean, I've always said, you know, if you've got time and you ever wanted to study things for 20 years, there's 3 subjects that you could study for 20 years. 1 is fascia, 2 is water, 3 is vitamin C.
Yeah,
you could be studying that for the rest of your life.
Absolutely, there are real experts, aren't there? And I've actually, some people may know that I was very ill in my life. I had a very long-lasting virus that was highly active and left me very ill for a number of years. And intravenous vitamin C was, you know, one of my main therapies that really helped me get back. I mean, I was told I'd never work again. You know, I was in bed for 3 years and then spent many years feeling unwell, but vitamin C, fantastic. Anyway, having it intravenously is obviously quite, it's not something that everyday people are going to do, but just letting you know, even on the Isle of Man, there are people that do, you know, there's a clinic in Tower House, Infinity Dental, that do the intravenous vitamin C. So we do have that service here on the Isle of Man. But for our immunity and general support at the moment, it doesn't have to be done that way, does it, Izzy? We can take it internally.
You can supplement with it, yeah.
And it's great because, you know, children often can take vitamin C. I mean, we've got great tasting vitamin C powders, C-Max. You can get it, you know, from health food shops, you can get it from Boots. You know, it's very easily available, isn't it, vitamin C?
Yeah, there's many formats you can take it in, so you're bound to find a way to take vitamin C that you're going to agree with. You know, some people are tablet takers, some people are tincture takers, you know, some people like to mix it in with other things that they're doing. Vitamin C is just one of those ones that you're going to find a format that's going to agree with you, that you're going to be happy to take on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And don't forget, you know, a good old squeeze of lemon first thing in the morning. Get those antioxidants.
Absolutely.
Vitamin C, all your citrus foods, fantastic, aren't they, in vitamin C as well? And leafy green vegetables, not forgetting those, my favourite foods. And then last but not least, definitely not least, homeopathy. So, I mean, aren't we lucky that we have homeopathy, and where would we be without it? And the stress and anxiety support packs that I designed last year is something that I'm really proud of, because we gave away over 250 packs to NHS workers. I'm about to launch another project, handing those out, you know, to any teachers or anybody in the Isle of Man that wants to support themselves. You know, it's something that we can do very cost effectively, because a lot of the things that we've been talking about have a cost involved, don't they? You know, buying ashwagandha, buying magnesium, but homeopathic medicine is really very, very cost effective. And so anybody that's listening to this that would like to support their immune system and their stress and anxiety, they can send me a message and I will send you out a kit for free. Because at the moment, you know, we're just keen to support our society, aren't we, Izzy? That's why we're doing this.
Absolutely.
We really want to support as many people as we can.
And to anyone out there who's not too convinced about homeopathy, I was one of those people as well. I really couldn't understand it, couldn't see how it would work, and, you know, never really tried it. I just assumed it was, you know, not very good. And then when I started doing kinesiology, clients sometimes bring in their own supplements that they're already taking, and I check to see if their body wants them and if the dosage is right and all this. And one day this person brought in this supplement, and it just looks like a normal packet of paracetamol or something like that. It was, it looked very, very medical. And I tested it, and the body went really, really, really strong on it. And I was like, oh, what's this? And it was a homeopathic treatment. And I was like, right, okay, so the body really, really wants whatever this homeopathy is. And then more clients started bringing in their homeopathy little tablets, their little sugar pills and things that they get. And the body just kept on wanting everything they were bringing in. So then I just thought, well, bodies don't lie. Yeah, the mouth do, and the mind, conscious mind may do sometimes, but bodies don't lie. Subconscious doesn't lie. And I can't dispute any longer homeopathy if I'm testing it time and time again and it's coming up as something that the body really, really wants. So then I became a convert.
Yeah, well, it's at the end of the day, belief is very important, isn't it?
It is.
Having a belief in what you're taking or a belief in what you're doing, they reckon is more than 60% of the healing response, don't they? I mean, what we've been talking about is research which doesn't have a belief attached to it, but for self-healing. And if you take something and you think that's not going to work, it's not going to work mostly. Like,
no, of course it's not. No,
it's important that you do what feels right for you. We're not telling you what to do. We're saying these are some suggestions. Take from it what feels right for you and then go with that. But what is very important is that people nourish their nervous systems, and that we're just giving you some tools to do so. So quickly before we finish, do you want to read out your list? I mean, we won't go through every single one of them because we haven't got time, but if we just talk about, like, just list them down, your stress management strategies, just to show that, there's all these ideas and we've got to take what feels good for us, haven't we? So what have you suggested, Izzy?
Yeah. So I've suggested here mindfulness practices, and that's because there's many studies now that show that mindfulness can reduce cortisol levels.
Wow.
So, you can join mindfulness groups online. There's apps such as the Calm app or the Headspace app, I believe, that you can download if you're more
Insight Timer is another good one, isn't it? Brilliant.
Right, yeah. Good, yeah. So there's many ways to access it. And what I'll say about anything like mindfulness and meditation, and I think I said it on my slides as well, you get a lot of people that go, I tried it once and it didn't work. And so I say to them, well, do you go to the gym only once? And say, oh, tried the gym once, it didn't work. It doesn't work like that. It's a practice. You can be doing up to 12 weeks before you see the full benefits. It's benefiting you straight away, but up here you might not realize it. So it can take a while before you feel the full benefits of it. So it's a practice that you just have to keep on doing all the time. But mindfulness is one of those ones that does work pretty quickly on a lot of people as well. Not everyone, but it can work pretty quickly. And so you've got meditation, which is slightly different. And, you might like both, or you just might like one or the other, but I'd say try it a few times, give it a chance. What else did I put down? Forest bathing.
Or did that yesterday.
Oh, everyone loves a bit of forest bathing. There's a great study by Nippon University, I think, that have shown the effects of forest bathing on cortisol levels, on adrenaline levels, on stress in general. We have a lady over here, don't we, Andreen, who does the forest bathing courses. So there's access to that once lockdown is over.
You can just go in the forest, guys. You don't have to do anything apart from just go in the forest and just sort of quiet the mind and lie on the floor or touch the trees. It's just about being in the forest and allowing that.
Just immersing in nature.
Yeah, the sounds, and the smells, and the energies, and the hearing the trees and the wind, and it's just magical. And then you could be really out there and say that you feel fairies or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's just about having that immersion.
Just immersing yourself. It is. And you can go to loads of meditation or mindfulness groups or listen to CDs, but nothing gets you calmer quicker than being outside in nature. It's absolutely just so fast like that. And if you're really feeling wild, you can take your shoes and socks off and do a bit of grounding for 15 minutes as well. There's so much research into grounding, just showing how it just removes inflammation from the body, calms the central nervous system. So next time you're on the hill or in the forest or in the field,
shoes off.
Get your shoes and socks off. 15 minutes. What else did I put? I put plants around the home and workspaces. Well, you know, the more, again, it's just putting a bit of nature in your home, and the more plants you have and producing all that oxygen as well, that
They
is
clean
going to
the
have an
air,
effect
don't
on the
they? All the
environment.
spider plants and the aloe
Absolutely,
vera,
yeah.
I've got them everywhere here.
Yeah, and yeah, air purifiers. So your environment, and you know, we do reflect our environment in our own health. So if we live in an environment that's a little bit toxic or a little bit polluted or not too great, that does affect in our health, and vice versa. So yeah, making sure your environment is right is really, really good for inner health as well.
Yeah, great. And you've put self-care, something we teach a lot on the 18-day cleanse, and I know you'll be talking to your patients a lot about as well, but oh, self-care, I mean.
It's huge. It's huge. Even from, you know, on your 18-day cleanser, you know, you wake up and the first thing you do is skin brushing, you know, that is self-care.
Yeah,
Simple little things like that. Yeah, giving yourself respect, honoring yourself, and giving yourself love.
Yeah,
it can be something that takes 20 seconds, something that takes a minute, 5 minutes, or anything.
My friend, my dear friend Katie Foster in Australia, she teaches us to sit with your cup of tea, smell it, and just think, oh, I love this tea, and I love my mug. This is my Peel Nicola Dixon mug, which I absolutely love as well. But I'm drinking tea out your favourite mug. I'm currently on Pukka lemon and Manuka, ginger and Manuka honey, and you know, smell it, savor it, you know, rather than just lugging it down, because we become just luggers, don't we? Just get it in, but actually just take that.
And that's not good either. Yeah.
2-3 seconds to go, oh, I love this tea, you know, and even that just feels caring, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So yeah, self-care, huge. There's probably hundreds of different things you can do for self-care, but something that makes you feel good, something that makes every cell in your body just buzz of that little bit of warmth and that bit of happiness.
Absolutely. I love a little facial and a little bath. That's what I like for a bit of self-care.
Oh, great.
And gratitude.
I think I just cuddle my dogs.
Cuddle your dogs, yeah. And gratitude, one of our favourite subjects, isn't it, to talk about? I mean,
that can alter brain chemistry permanently. Gratitude is one of the most important things you can do. And, you know, you just start simple, you know, I'm grateful for my being alive. I'm grateful for the place where I live. I'm grateful for my pets. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my extended family. You know, I'm grateful to live in this little building or this area. You know, just start listing down things you're grateful for and repeat that every day.
And feel it rather than just write it and be in the head. It's a feeling, isn't it?
Feel it too, yeah.
Feel it. It's like, oh, thank you. And even just say thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, gratitude's changed my life. When I was lying in bed for 3 years, the days that I was like, this is horrible, I'm really scared, I'm never going to get out of this, oh my God, I might die, what am I going to do if I leave my kid without a mum, what am I going to do if I do this? And on those days, my health problems would compound worse. And what I really noticed was that if I lay in bed and went, oh, thank you for my comfy pillow, thank you for the fan, in Australia it was boiling, thank you for the fan, thank you for the birds outside, thank you for the nets on the windows so I can open the windows, you know, and without the flies coming in. And on the days that I really, really focused on gratitude, I found that by the next day I would wake up feeling significantly better. And then I would have more energy to be more grateful. And when I started keeping a diary, I was like, hang on a minute, there's something to this.
Yeah, gratitude is so powerful. It's just that the starting point, you know, if you are feeling quite stressed or quite low, it can be quite difficult to even pick one thing.
It can,
but do try and find that one thing, and if all you have is one thing, then that is what you're grateful for.
Absolutely. They reckon it's a power bigger than love, don't they? It's a power bigger than love.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of the most fastest mood elevating feelings, emotions. I don't know what you'd call gratitude on that level, but
virtue, isn't it? It's a virtue.
Yeah.
Yeah, very powerful stuff. So journaling is your next one, Izzy.
Yes, so journaling I find quite difficult, but when I do it, it makes a difference. It really does. I've never been much of a diary or journal keeper, so I don't do it every day. But there are times in my life where I think, right, okay, we'll just do a few weeks of journaling, and it makes a huge amount of difference. It really does help calm. It really does help put things in perspective, and when you reflect, you can actually see the journey that you've taken and actually where you are right now. It's quite amazing how that happened. And
it's just like a brain dump. It's a brain dump, isn't it? When you're like cars crashing in your brain and the thoughts are coming, bang, 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 and you're like, oh, slow down a bit. You know, yeah, you can do your breathing. You know, everybody's different, but some people, if they just write it down without even thinking, it's like it almost gets it out of your nervous system very quickly.
It does, yeah. And then if you're inquisitive, you could go through it and see the patterns, and you know, or you can just dump it and let it go, and then that's it, written down, gone.
So for anybody that's stressed right now or fearful or living in anxiety, you can write, I am anxious because, and just write it. Don't think about it. Write it all down. I'm angry because, and nobody's ever going to see it. Yeah, it's not like a letter that you write to anybody. So you doesn't even have to make sense. It's just like a brain dump, isn't it? Getting it out there.
It is. Yeah, gets it out of the system. It's another method of getting stress out.
Yeah. Well, sleep, I think we've covered sleep, haven't we? But we can't put sleep in a bottle. If you're not sleeping well, please see your health practitioner or reach out to Izzy or I for support, because really sleeping is underestimated. It's like your body,
it's huge.
Please no. And movement, we talked about this morning, didn't we, on the phone? Going for a walk for, is it 25 to 40 minutes a day will lower your cortisol levels, actually lower the hormones down.
Yes, it does. And I think any embodiment type practice, you know, you've got dance, which I know is one of your favorites. I'm not maybe too keen on that. Walking, yoga, stretches, you know, anything that's movement really does seem to make the mind and body a little bit congruent just for that time, and everything comes together and you can just start to release stresses on every level that way.
And could we talk about shaking then as well? Because
absolutely.
You know, shaking meditations. I know when I was pretty stressed a few weeks ago when I phoned you and you were like, come on, Steffi, I'd had a big shock, hadn't I? I'd had some news that was a big shock. And you were like, make sure you stress. And I tell my patients to do it. But when you're in that state, you forget, don't we? We forget all the
last thing you think about, So shaking's huge. It's the quickest way to kind of calm down in a movement exercise. It's so powerful. And I think it comes from, you know, when you taught about shaking in the first place, you taught that you see an animal has a stress or a trauma, and they shake and they shake and they shake and they shake, and then they just stop and carry on, like the lion chasing the gazelle, and the gazelle gets away and it shakes and it shakes and it shakes, then it just stops and carries on. But as humans, we tend to try and stop that shaking process. So we don't shake the stress or the trauma out. You know, we try and comfort, we try and stop that very, very important process. So just by shaking, you are actually getting trauma out, you're getting stress out. So it's another very, very fast acting movement embodiment practice to do, a minute or two is all you need.
Now so I teach my patients, you know, they come in and maybe they're anxious and they're having anxiety here, and they've been told by other practitioners to do some deep breathing, which we've already covered. We love breathing. But what I say to people is, these are the sort of hormones that you're going to be producing to run away from a tiger. They're pretty high. Are you going to be able to take deep breaths and relax while you know that there's a tiger out there?
Not at that point.
Deep breathing is better when your stress is here, isn't it? And it's a bit lower. If stress and anxiety levels are really high, the worst thing that you can do is sit down and try to deep breathe, because you're not going to be able to, and it's going to stress you out even more. And this is where the movement comes in, isn't it? It's like
the shaking
out the stress hormones, get it down to here, and then you can do some deep breathing. You know, then you can.
And you'll notice as you shake, your breathing becomes stronger. And you know, you can start to take deeper breaths as you start to shake. And I think a great friend of ours, Rosemary, who does the breathwork stuff, I mean, part of her practice is shaking. There is a shaking bit in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Start with shaking.
Powerful. Very, very powerful. So 30 seconds to a minute or longer if you can hack it. Very, very quick to calm everything down as well. So there's some really good practices here that can calm you down quite quick.
But the shaking really important, especially when the anxiety is high. You know, if you're feeling it high, then that's when to move.
It's the easiest one to do in that level.
Yeah. And so we've said about checking in with family and friends. Obviously, you know, some people are alone at the moment. They're living alone. and it's hard to keep connection, because this hasn't been, especially for our brothers and sisters in the UK, flipping heck, they've been indoors for months now, but a lot of people in the Isle of Man have as well, because of their shielding, or they've got other concerns. So a lot of people have been quite denied of human contact, or regular human contact. And I remember in lockdown 2 for us in the Isle of Man, I was absolutely fine until the 3rd week. And even though I live with 2 people and a dog, I was lonely.
Yeah. You do miss the dynamics, don't you, of other people?
Yeah.
It's like, some of us who like to travel, we miss being immersed in another culture, hearing it and feeling it, and you can relate it to people. You miss being immersed with other dynamics, other family dynamics and other people. It's more than the 5 senses, isn't it? It's just this thing that you miss. So I would say check in any way you can. It can be a video call, it can be a phone call, it can be something that's just sweet. It's just writing a little note and putting it through someone's letterbox.
Yeah,
let's get writing notes again, or postcards. Let's bring that back.
That's lovely. I'm going to do that today.
Things like that. Yeah,
I'm going to do that today. Thank you. That's a lovely idea. But yeah, contact, human contact, very, very important, even if it is.
Yeah.
And especially like the shops, we don't even get to smile at each other anymore, do we? Because we're like, so it's like,
yeah, it's not too good, is it?
No. So making sure that we do have that contact, really, really important. We've talked about dancing, and that again, a way of moving it through. We've talked about exercise, yoga, immersing in nature. Reading and audio books. Gosh, there's so much available online.
Loads you can do.
Free.
Yeah. I mean, I'm an audiobook girl. I have loads and loads of books, but I never finish them. But of audiobooks, I finish them. So yeah, I think I'm more of an audiobook girl. But yeah, they're great. They're great just to lose yourself for a moment and just get immersed in another story for a while.
Lovely. Yeah, switching off from everything else and just having a focus. Yeah. Lovely. And then we've already talked about food, so I've left this one till last, because I know by the time I demonstrate this, I'll be tired and need to go for a little relax. It's so effective, isn't it? But we really wanted to give
lavender,
the good old lavender oil. Now I've got a doTERRA one, but you don't have to have doTERRA. Any lavender oil is fine. But lavender, through the olfactory cells, which is in our nose, has got massive clinical research, hasn't it, on its calming effect to the nervous system.
It's been used for centuries.
Absolutely. I mean, my grandma, had lavender bags that she used to sniff in the night if she couldn't sleep, and it's just sort of one of those really old remedies, isn't it? So I just wanted to demonstrate, we've talked about breath. And I can smell it already, it's lovely. We've talked about breath, and then we've talked about the importance of just sort of being mindful. So a great practice is just to put 2 or 3 drops onto the palm of your hand, and then rub your hands together, and literally in a chair, wherever you are, and take some nice deep breaths. Now I won't do it now and for 5 minutes, but if we could do that, put on your favorite 2 songs, or 2 songs, 5 minutes, and honestly, just to rest your arms so they're not here, so they're just rested. And doing your deep breathing, I mean, you can completely change your biochemistry in 5 minutes by doing some deep breathing and sniffing this beautiful lavender. You can completely change your nervous system, can't you? Oh, your nervous system responses, can't you, Izzy?
Absolutely. And a great friend of mine last week just made me a little fabric pouch with a load of lavender in it.
Oh,
it's like a little miniature pillow. So I've got that by my pillow at night now, and helps me get to sleep completely.
Absolutely. It reminds you of your grandma. Hopefully you've got nice memories of your grandma. I'm really lucky, I do. So but yeah, it's one of those lovely old-fashioned remedies that it's very cost effective. Most of you have I'm sure already have lavender oil at home. So many people have it, don't they? It's very, very cheap and inexpensive. So please, if you take anything away, get out for a walk every day, do something to really look after yourself. Make sure you're eating, your fruits and vegetables and the abundant colours of the rainbows, and that you're keeping in touch with people. And if you need additional support, you reach out. Both Isabel and I are available if you need any support. And if there's any of the products that we mentioned that you want to try, you can reach out to Isabel and I on how to get access to them as well. And please just look after we've got to look after ourselves, haven't we? It's become important.
We do.
Now more than ever, because our health services are so pushed, and this isn't just for the short term. On this current episode that we're in this lockdown 3 in the Isle of Man, it's looking ahead, isn't it, at the stress and how that impacts our immune system, how that impacts our risk of cancers and autoimmune diseases. And so it's really making a decision right now that we are going to make sure that we look after ourselves as best we can. If that just includes sniffing a bit of tea, sniffing a little bit of lavender, taking things a bit slower, getting a bit of extra exercise, a bit of extra sleep, moving when we can, and really tuning into what we need. It's very, very important, isn't it, Izzy?
It is. And, just try to be the best that you can be.
Yeah.
That's all anyone can ask for any of us. And to do that is really, really the best self-help you can give yourself.
Thank you again for these slides, and thank you to everybody that's listened. I don't know how long we've been on, but I hope you'll agree there's lots of wealth of information here that we're so lucky to have people like Isabel here on the Isle of Man. There's some wonderful practitioners here, so do reach out. The whole island isn't shut down. We are available. If you need support, we're here.
Yes, what Steph said.
Thank you for going. Izzy's had to go in her little storeroom because it was the only place in Peel with everybody on the internet.
In my cupboard.
In Peel that she could get a signal. This is not your clinic. You have a beautiful clinic.
No, this cupboard is not my clinic.
Thank you again, Izzy. Lots of love.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.